Hello, this is a montage of old vintage photos of my late father. They were passed to me by my youngest uncle, aka my father's youngest brother and sibling, while he was spring cleaning his house about 2 years ago. I was in awe when I viewed the photos because it showed a side of my father who I have not experienced before. You see, my father passed away suddenly when I was only 15 years old. Yet the times that I spent with him during his short lifetime and in my teenage years were some of the best times in my life. Father and son bonded over many activities together, such as cycling at East Coast Park, golfing at the driving range, and sailing near Changi Beach, then having dinner at the nearby hawker centers. Hence, his sudden death due to a heart attack was a big shock to me as well as many others who knew him. I do not know who took these photos at that time, or how it ended up in my youngest uncle's hands and now in my possession. My uncle could not provide any further information. All I can infer is that they were taken during the late 1960s to 70s, and it showed my father's life back then with his many buddies and friends, and before he knew my mother and got married. I cannot be sure if the other people featured in these photos are alive or dead. All I can say is that they should be in their early 70s now if they are still living. Somehow, these black and white photos showed how simple yet enjoyable life was back in the 60s and 70s. That is not to say that there were no hardships then, which Singapore would have faced back then as a newly independent nation. Through the photos, my father seemed to love going to the beach and go boating with his friends, then enjoy a fizzy drink after, in glass bottles no less, at a nearby coffee house. The clothes worn were interesting too. They wore short-sleeved shirts and pants to go boating, normal school or office clothes. Today, swimming attire and life jackets would be the norm, and the boats will have modern engines instead of just oars to move around. The most interesting photos to me are those taken during his national service in the army, or it could be him doing his reservice. I'm not sure which period it could be. This is because taking photographs back then while serving in the army is strictly regulated, and my father's hair in the photos can be considered long for military standards. Furthermore, the shots were taken of my father in what I can say relaxed positions, which I think the army at that time would frown upon because it shows a poor image. During this period in the army's history, soldiers wore what we call the Temasek green uniform, and there were many stories of how they have to starch their uniforms so often that their pants could even stand without support if you prop them up. I wore the woodland camouflage uniform during my national service, which I personally feel is more comfortable than the current pixelized camouflage uniform. The rifles used were the M16s or AR-15s with the 20-round standard magazines. I remembered when I was serving my NS as an armament technician, I had to take care of hundreds of these M16 assault rifles and M7 bayonets, which I jokingly referred to them as my father's rifles. Now they are replaced by the more modern SAR-21 rifles, and for my generation of soldiers, it is still debatable over which rifle is better. Unfortunately, my father didn't share with me how his army life was beyond, saying that he was a corporal in the signals unit and that it was a tough life. I'm sure if he shared more, I would have prepared better and enjoyed my own NS just a bit more. The next batch of photos seems to be taken in Malaysia, most likely Penang and or Kuala Lumpur. I have no clue on what occasion my father went up north to Malaysia, perhaps a work trip or holiday. These photos show a side of Malaysia that few people know today about. And oh my, I didn't know my father loved bell-bottom pants, kept long hair, and drove a motorcycle. In the 1970s, there was a rule in Singapore that frowns upon men keeping long hair like the Bee Gees or sideburns like Elvis Presley. Such men with long hair were perceived to be uncouth and would be served last at any service station. Thankfully, the law was repealed when the 1980s rolled in. As I produce this photo montage, I celebrate the life of a remarkable man, someone whose presence touched the lives of everyone fortunate enough to know him. I remember a life well lived, filled with love, laughter, and countless cherished moments. Born in 1952, Ricky came into this world with a spirit that would leave an indelible mark on those around him. His journey on this earth concluded in the year 2000, leaving behind a legacy that transcends the bounds of time. For those who were privileged to know Ricky, it is impossible not to recall the warmth of his smile, the kindness in his eyes, and the genuine compassion he extended to others. As a father, he embodied the essence of love and dedication, shaping the lives of those he held dear. Ricky was not just a man of years, he was a man of character. His integrity, honesty, and unwavering principles guided him throughout life. He faced challenges with resilience, always emerging stronger, a testament to the depth of his spirit. As a provider, Ricky worked tirelessly to ensure the comfort and well-being of his family. His sacrifices were a reflection of the selflessness that defined him. He understood the value of hard work and instilled in us the importance of perseverance, which I carry on in my life today. To the world, Ricky may be remembered for his accomplishments and contributions, but to us, he was a source of unwavering support, a comforting presence during times of joy and sorrow alike. In the 15 years that I was blessed to share with him, he imparted invaluable lessons that continue to guide us on our own life journeys, especially now that I have my own family to raise. Sometimes when October comes around, I mourn his passing, but I do not dwell solely on the void his absence leaves behind. Instead, I celebrate the love, wisdom, and joy he brought into our lives. His memory is a beacon of inspiration, reminding us to live with purpose, kindness, and an unwavering commitment to those we hold dear. In the tapestry of time, Ricky has woven a legacy that transcends his physical presence. Let us carry forward the lessons he taught us, the love he bestowed upon us, and the indomitable spirit that defined his existence. May he rest in peace, knowing that his legacy lives on in the hearts and minds of all who were fortunate enough to know him. God bless.